When I talk to various people who I'm acquainted with or people who are from our church family here in Odessa, they're curious and they want to know, how's the church doing? Well, it's difficult to judge how the whole church is doing when we're not able to gather here on a weekly basis or two or three times a week. But there are some indicators that I pay attention to. There are things that indicate that actually that there is a greater closeness between church members, even though they're not seeing each other. There are people in the church who have made little bags, supply bags of things that they feel like people will need, and they've gone around to houses of people in our church that are pretty well shut in and provided for them things that they felt like that they would need. And nobody asked them to do that. They just created the bags and dispensed them to the various people in the church. And I really appreciate that. And as time goes on, if you feel like that's something you want to do, I know it will be deeply appreciated. And then another thing is folks in the church are concerned about one another. And they have contacted one another. They call the church and ask about various people in the church, wanting to know how they're doing and do they need anything. And that's a good thing. That's a thing that needs to happen even when this is all over with and we're back to normal. It would be good for folks to continue to check on one another and contact one another. That's also one of the benefits of our Connect groups, small groups where we can stay in touch with one another and keep up with what's going on in people's lives. And then people, not so much folks here in the church, but various ones that I come in contact with want to know, well, how are the finances of the church holding up with everybody being gone? And quite frankly, the finances have remained just about the same. People have been mailing in their offerings and their tithes, or they use online texting, push pay giving to send in their tithes and their offerings. And then the most beautiful thing that happens is people gathering here at the church, out in the parking lot, staying in their cars, but just praying, coming here to the church property and talking to God. And it's just a wonderful thing to see how this church has held up. Even though that we are not getting together, we're staying together, we're staying connected. And I'm thankful to pastor a church that is solid. It's such a privilege to pastor a church that is mature and has a relationship with God and has a relationship with one another. To be a part of a church that is a strong, not just a church, but a church family. And I'm grateful for that. And I thank each and every one of you, and I appreciate you. I appreciate your prayers for me, and I appreciate your prayers for this church family. There's going to be good things come out of this. There's already good things coming out of it. And it just takes stuff like this to push us out of our comfort zone and forces us to look at life different, appreciate things that are common. And this is not an altogether bad thing. There's a lot of good coming out of it. It's unsettling, it's uncertain, I'm sure, and I understand that completely. But it's these kind of things that also makes us more solid. I want to talk to you tonight about life management decisions. Decisions that we can make to help us manage our life. During World War II, Singapore was in a strategic position as far as military was concerned, but the people of Singapore were comfortable because they were well defended. They had a strong naval base from England that was positioned in their community, and they had the ocean in the front that provided them protection, and they had the English Navy there to deal with whatever came by ocean. And then on the backside of that city and that nation was a formidable jungle. And it was believed that nothing or no one could get through that jungle. But to everyone's amazement, the Japanese army clawed their way through that jungle during the monsoon season, and they attacked Singapore from a position that was totally unprotected, and in just a short amount of time overran Singapore and captured it. There was a young sailor that was able to escape from the Japanese army, and he plunged himself into the jungle. Well, it was understood that you couldn't survive in that particular jungle, but he did survive, and later he wrote a book that would document how he had escaped, what he went through to escape, and it documented his survival, the time that he spent surviving in the jungle until he could find rescue. And the title of his book was The Jungle is Neutral. The jungle is neutral. And he confirmed in his book that the jungle is dangerous and that the jungle would allow you to die. It wouldn't protect you. It would allow you to die if that was your fate. And then he also confirmed that the jungle is also full of provisions that will enable you to survive. It will allow you to die, or it will enable you to survive. That anyone who found themselves in the jungle could either die soon because the jungle was dangerous and it was void. It had no necessities of life in it. Or an individual could go into the jungle and survive indefinitely because the jungle was full of supplies that would allow a man or a woman to find shelter or build shelter and find food. And so the jungle is neutral. It will either kill you or it will help you to survive. The jungle is not the determining factor as to whether an individual would live or an individual would die. The determining factor was how you managed the jungle. The jungle is neutral, but how you manage yourself in the jungle determine whether you lived or whether you died. And so I propose to you tonight that life is neutral. I've discovered as I've walked through life and watched others live through life that it's neutral. Life is dangerous. It is fraught with challenges. It is filled with disappointment. There is a whole lot of pain in life and tremendous amount of unfairness. It is dangerous, but life is also complete with enough necessities to help us not only to survive life, but there is enough necessities in life to help us live a life of satisfaction. It's possible in this dangerous setting to live a life that is full and that is whole. Life is neutral. It's how we handle the things in life that determine whether we live or whether we're destroyed. I'm often asked, how is life treating you? And I most of the time respond, it doesn't really matter, does it? It's not how life treats me, it's how I take it. It's how I manage what life is dealing out to me. That is what matters. We need to come as Christians, as just human beings, we need to come to the place to where we are mature and that we trust God, that we are solid in our walk and in our trust with God, so that we handle our blessings and we handle our crisis with the same amount of poise. It doesn't matter whether we're in a blessing or whether we are in a crisis. We are thankful and we are able to handle each one of them steadily and calmly and steadfast. I was blessed with, in my opinion, the two best parents in the world. I had fabulous parents. My parents were always strong. They were always vibrant, full of energy. But as time went on and life went on, my mother was gripped by Parkinson's disease. And this woman who was all of my life had walked fast and had walked with long strides, suddenly was forced to hold on to someone else's arm to walk. And then finally, she was unable to walk. She was confined to a wheelchair. My dad, in the latter days of his life, developed congestive heart failure. And it required him to hold on to a walker to walk around his own house. And he struggled to breathe. And so someone posed the question to my father, said, you and your wife have poured yourself into the work of God. You and your wife have lived for God for so many years. Why is all of this happening to you? And my dad's response to them was, why not? This is simply the course of life, and why should I be exempt from life? So tonight I want to share with you some decisions that you can make that will assist you as you deal with the realities of life. Decisions that will help you manage life. Decision number one, you need to decide every day that you will not waste time feeling sorry for yourself. Decide every day that you will not waste your time feeling sorry for yourself. You need to come to grips with the fact that life is not fair. You need to come to grips with the fact that you will be mistreated. You will be misunderstood. That is just some of the things that happens in life. You need to come to grips with the fact that not all circumstances in life are going to turn out the way that you plan it. Not all circumstances in life are going to turn out the way that you want it. But so what? We can't waste our time feeling sorry for ourselves. If you and I waste our time and waste our energy keeping score on how bad things are in life, you will never learn from life. If you're constantly keeping score on how things have gone wrong for you, you'll never be able to grow up. And that's the whole idea of life, is growing up, becoming mature. And if we're always belly aching over the fact that life is grim and life is no good and life is bad, and we feel sorry for ourselves because it's been unfair to us, then we'll never learn the lessons that we could have learned from the experiences that we've had. Decision number two, we need to decide every day that we will not waste our energy stewing over what we cannot control. You don't gain anything by getting worked up over stuff you can't control. You can't control traffic and laying on your horn, fussing at the people in front of you, letting your blood pressure get all spiked up out of shape simply because traffic is not going the way you want. That's a waste of energy. It's a waste of time. You can't control traffic. You can't control the fact that your luggage is lost. You can't control the fact that there are some people that are not impressed with your own personal importance. There's just some people don't understand how valuable you are, and you can't control that. So if you spend all of your time or a high percentage of your time fretting over what people think, fretting over what is going on in your life that you cannot control, you're wasting energy. There are people that we worry about their opinions. We fret about their opinions, that they think this about us, they say this about us. But let me ask you, would you go to that individual and ask them for advice? And if you would not go to that individual to ask them for advice on what you should do with your life, then why are you worried about what they think? Only focus on the things that you do control. Since The only thing that you can control, you can't control people. You can't control your luggage. You can't control the traffic. The only thing that you can control, and I teach this over and over again, is you can control your attitude and you can control your personal behavior. That's the only things that you can control. So since that is all that you can control, then that is what you should focus on. Focus on what you can control. Focus on making sure you keep a right attitude. Focus on the fact that you must control your behavior in the situation. And the rest of it will work itself out. You just deal with the things that you can control. Decision number 3, you need to decide every day not to waste your energy dwelling on the past. It is possible to learn lessons from the past. I fully understand that. I fully agree with that. There are lessons that you can learn from past experiences. But the people that I have watched that are staring at the past and dwelling at the past are not learning lessons from their past, but they're wallowing in their disappointments. They're beating themselves up with regret. Or they're fantasizing over the fact that the past is so much greater than the present is. And these are things that you can't control. Things of the past is something that you can't control. You can't fix it. So you need to decide today that you're going to focus your energy on improving the present and improving the future. Don't waste your energy on dwelling on things that happened years ago, or even last week for that matter. You've got to go on with your life. Decision number 4, decide every day not to waste energy resenting other people's success. They were either lucky or they worked really hard. But when you resent the good things that happen in their life, you make it a whole lot more difficult for good things to come into your life. So be thankful whenever you are blessed, and be thankful for when somebody else is blessed. Decision number 5, you need to decide every day not to waste any energy thinking that the world owes you something. I get impatient when I hear people ask the question, what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of it? The world doesn't owe you anything. You owe the world. You owe the world for the opportunity that it gives you to be involved. You owe the world for the opportunity it gives you to contribute. You owe the world for the opportunity that it gives you to become whatever it is you decide to be in life. But if you're constantly looking at the past, fretting about other people getting blessed and you not getting any breaks, you just need to be thankful. Be thankful for the good that's happened to you. Be thankful for the good that has happened to others, and understand nobody owes me anything. I don't need to be a receiver. I need to be a giver. I don't need to be someone that is sucking the life out of society, but I need to be someone who is blessing others and giving to others. I need to understand that I owe the world around me the best that I can do. Decision number 6, you need to decide every day to be a good example to your family. You need to decide every day to be a good example to the people that you know. Make a daily decision that will cause you to be the man or a woman who is dependable. Make the decision every day that you're going to be the man or the woman that is consistent, that is honorable, and that is godly. These are decisions that we need to make. Now, Jesus told the story of a wealthy man that went into a long journey. And before he left, he gave 3 of his servants a portion of his money. And he went and was gone for a long time. But when he came back, he sat down, and the Bible used the word reckoned with them. He wanted to know how his investment in them had paid off. And 2 of those 3 servants doubled his investment. They made twice as much money as what he had given them. And the master said to those two servants in Matthew chapter 25, verse 23, his Lord said unto him, well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. The way that you and I handle the few things, the way that you and I handle the small things, the way that you and I handle the things that go unnoticed by other people, that is the way life is going. That will determine the way that life turns out for us in the future. Waiting for circumstances to hopefully get better is not going to get anything done. You and I are expected, just like the servants of the wealthy traveler, we are expected to do the best we can with what we presently have. Instead of belly aching over what we presently have, hoping that someday that it will get better, we are expected to do the very best we can with what we already have. We are expected to find survival supplies in this jungle that we find ourselves in. This jungle, this life that we live in is neutral. It will either allow us to die and wither away, or it will provide us with everything we need to survive and to succeed. Everyone wants money in the bank. Everyone wants a good retirement. Everyone wants salvation. They want their children to live for God. Everyone wants a solid family, wants a strong and healthy marriage. But you don't simply get those things because you want it. There are things that you and I have to do that is necessary, that we pull out of this life and out of the circumstances that we are in, that just because I want it doesn't make any of this happen. It happens because that we make right decisions every day, every day, every day, every day, every decision, every day. We can't slack up. There is no spring training in life. When baseball season cranks back up, right now is supposed to be spring training where they play games and these games don't count. Nobody is keeping up with how many games they've won or they've lost because this is simply spring training. This is simply practicing. But in life, there is no spring training. Every day that I live, every day that you live matters. It counts. It is contributing to our score. It is contributing to our won-loss column. And we've got to make sure that every decision we make every day is creating a life that is successful, a life that is strong, a life that is solid, a life that is safe to follow. Daniel experienced a life of extremes. He experienced harsh experiences and plush conditions. His harsh experiences were extremely harsh, and his plush circumstances were extremely plush. He was captured. He lived in King's palace. He saved the lives of wise men. He interpreted dreams. He endured a plot to kill him. He found himself in a den full of hungry lions. These were the events that were recorded in Daniel's life. These are the events that stand out. These are the events that we tell about and that affected history. What was Daniel's secret? We find it in Daniel chapter 1, verse 21. The answer we find when it says that Daniel continued. Daniel continued even under the first year of King Cyrus. And then we find in Daniel chapter 6, verse 10. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, this was the writing that would condemn anyone to the lion's den if they prayed to any other god besides their king. When he heard about the signing of that proclamation, he went into his house, and his windows being opened in his chamber toward Jerusalem, He kneeled his knees. He kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed. And he gave thanks before his God as he did aforetime. Whenever he learned that he was probably going to be killed, he went to his house. He knelt down at the windows that were already open from his prayer meeting that morning. And he began to pray and he began to thank God like he always had. He didn't wring his hands. He didn't become bitter. He didn't question why. He simply focused on what mattered. He simply focused on what he could control. He didn't resent anybody. He controlled what really mattered. He controlled his attitude. He controlled his behavior. Life is neutral. It rains on the just and the unjust. The sun shines on the just and the unjust. Don't expect fairness. Just understand that when you do the best you can with what you have right now, it makes it possible for God to be able to open up his windows and to bless you with things in the future. Don't expect fairness, but do expect to overcome. Don't expect fairness in life, but do expect to overcome anything and everything that life brings to you. Let's pray. Dear God, we thank you tonight. We thank you because you are with us every step of the way. That regardless of what we go through, we know one thing, that you are with us. You never leave us. You never forsake us. And I pray, God, that you would give us strength, that you'd give us courage, that you would give us wisdom, and that we would lean on you and allow the peace that passes all understanding to fill our hearts and minds. That we would remain calm so that we can make good choices. That we would remain calm in you so that we don't panic and make poor choices. Bless each and every one that hears this lesson tonight. Keep your hand on them. And help them, oh God, to be able to apply the choices and the decisions that we've taught here tonight to their lives, so that their life can be a life that moves forward instead of being hung up on things that they can't control. In Jesus' name, amen.